Hello and thanks for staying with us on your channel of choice, Africa Independent Television, AIT. Let me welcome you to the signature show. I'm Joke, and this Sunday we will be looking at the following issues. 1. The noise over the fuel souvenir at a Lagos party. The new Electoral Act. Is there more to be done to make it really effective? The Ebonyi State governorship defection crisis. Is this an integrity or a legal challenge? Plus, our thank you for this Sunday. All we ask from you is stay with us. When the issues matter and the need to know matters.
The chief of staff of Nigeria couldn't go to his village because it was being occupied by Boko Haram.
Politicians and political parties have massively used money to buy votes and to change the course of electoral direction.
You will also remember the very APC itself set up a Rufai committee recommending restructuring. Doesn't mean anything. Go back to federalism.
Or the fun and the fair to relieve everyday care.
Life is a riddle, my son. The land bled when Uvoranwen was put in shackles. Heaven wept when Saruwiwa was laid to rest.
Everything comes with the Judge Too Funny. Everything comes with who I am.
The Signature Show, your show that matters, on AIT every Sunday at 2 p.m. Now, let's begin the program this Sunday by expressing both understanding and a sense of astonishment over a piece written by our friend Femi Adesina, a senior media aide to President Muhammadu Buhari last week. You will soon know why. Femi Adesina had drawn our attention to a report by the Institute of Economics and Peace, an international and independent not-for-profit think tank, on what it called Global Terrorism Index for 2022. Now, the report indicated that between 2020 and 2021, there was a 10% improvement in terrorism-related deaths in sub-Saharan Africa. The Institute of Economics and Peace attributed the decline to the successful counter-insurgency operations targeting Boko Haram. Deaths caused by the terror group declined by 72%, down to only 178 deaths from 729, and that Nigeria experienced the biggest decline in the number of deaths. Good news, if you ask me. Femi Adesina wondered why such very positive development failed to catch the attention of the media, which of course would have announced it in headline stories and radio and television talk shows if it was negative. Now let me quote Femi Adesina. Why do we as a people show more interest in negative rather than positive news? And in respect of the positive report by the Institute of Economics and Peace, Adesina said, not a murmur, nor a whisper. Strange, very strange, end of quote. Indeed. I understand Femi Adesina's exasperation because being on the other side of journalism, positive stories on the government means his media relations job is being well done. I would, in fact, react the same way if I were to be in his shoes. But to say it is strange, very strange, that we take interest in negative stories is for Adesina to deny his own professional roots. Please let him go back to his own archives and check how many of his own stories and write-ups dwelt on bumper agricultural harvests, well-tarred roads, police effectively keeping the peace, and the government redeeming its election promises. Let him check. As much as I understand Femi's expectation that the media should celebrate the good news, I am amazed that he says it is strange to dwell on a man biting a dog. Good afternoon, Femi. This is the Signature Show on AIT. We take a break and return shortly. And now, last week, at the installation of Dr. Pearl Chidinma Ogbulu as the Erelu King of Orile, Dr. Ogbulu shared gallons of petrol to guests, many of who could not get petrol to buy from the fuel stations. The Lagos State government and the police have sworn with the grave of kings and the swords of generals to deal with the organizers of the ceremony for daring to put the lives of guests in danger. But is the anger of the police and the Lagos State government the only way to view that petrol souvenir saga? Correspondent Marvelous Obomano, he thinks differently.
In the past 1 month or more, Nigerians have been lamenting the difficulty in buying petrol at filling stations due to scarcity of the commodity. Unfortunately, while the citizens suffer, black marketers have taken over the filling stations and the roadsides, selling fuel illegally between 300 and 500 naira per litre, over 300% above the regulated price. This current fuel challenge seems unending even after promises by the federal government to find a lasting solution, and the Nigerian National Petroleum Company saying there was enough fuel to meet demand. On February 9, 2021, Signature TV reported long queues in filling stations in Abuja and highlighted the illegal activities of black marketers. On Saturday last week, a socialite at her chieftaincy title installation shared gallons of petrol as souvenirs to guests.
Some people are taking this to the next level. Fuel as souvenir. If you are not in this party, forget it. You are not chilling with the big boys.
This particular development has sparked outright condemnation by the Lagos State government. The Lagos State Commissioner for Information and Strategy, Gbenga Omotosho, said the action was against all safety measures and government will ensure that all those involved will be held accountable. While the government is condemning the action and the police is promising to deal with those who gave petrol as souvenirs, some Nigerians are saying the person who shared the fuel as souvenirs ought to be applauded. As the controversy rages, Signature Show was on the streets of Abuja to get the reactions of Nigerians on the development.
If the fuel is available for people to get, easily drive to a station and get your fuel, I don't think somebody will come up with an idea to share a fuel as a souvenir to people and in order to help the mobility.
It is a responsibility of the government to make sure there is a fuel for everybody. And the man see it that, okay, people are suffering, let me just contribute my a little quota in order to help to ease the suffering of masses, and they want to arrest. So it shows that government knows what they are doing.
In Nigerian government, they will follow him. But if they are going to do the right thing according to constitution, they're supposed to congratulate and bring him, to give him honor, award him, so that the world will see. So no need of arresting him. That is what government is supposed to do.
The person that, I don't know his name, but the person that really came to help the system to keep citizens moving, going to their office at normal time, it should be commended and not being hounded and humiliated.
Government should apologize, bring down their pride down and apologize to the masses.
Scarcity of fuel is persisting in major parts of the country, including the nation's capital city, Abuja, which has led to a hike in the cost of the commodity, with some motorists resorting to the black market to buy the commodity. This situation has also resulted to high transport fares, which is affecting commuters adversely, and cost of food items in the market are expected to rise above their present very unaffordable level. In Abuja, Marvelous Obomman for Signature Show.
Some people are taking this to the next level.
Well, from petrol as souvenir to Nigeria's new Electoral Act, Nigeria now has a new electoral law. The new law was rescued from the fangs of interest groups, which fought to tear its flesh and tendons and leave it as an empty and bare carcass. But it's a legal framework, no matter how well framed, the prime challenge to Nigeria's electoral process. What about the election managers and the umpires? Our next story focuses on the INEC factor. Last week, the Nigerian Senate set a legislative tone for the needed reform in Nigeria's political party democracy. The Senate threw out President Muhammadu Buhari's request to amend Section 84, subsection 12 of the new Electoral Act 2022. President Muhammadu Buhari only signed the new electoral law on February 25th, and in a letter to the Senate, requested for an amendment on the 1st of March, 4 days after he signed the Electoral Act. Section 84, subsection 12 of the Electoral Act provides that no political appointee shall be a voting delegate or be voted for at the convention or congress of any political party for the purpose of the nomination of any candidate for an election.
Politicians already begun the process of rigging the elections. Now, how does politicians rig elections? Money bags are able to hijack a process and then front their lackeys, their stooges, to occupy those positions. That is rigging. That is electoral compromise, because it will not reflect the wish of the people.
Before the Senate threw out President Muhammadu Buhari's request for an amendment, the People's Democratic Party (PDP) had gone to court seeking to stop the Senate from effecting the amendment requested by the President, a move which the Senate initially considered as judicial interference, but which it subsequently bought into. Justice Inyangekwo, in a considered judgment, restrained the President, the Attorney General of the Federation, and the Senate from making any amendment to the Act. The new Electoral Act, therefore, provides for electronic transmission of votes, recognizes electronic accreditation, allows political parties to use direct, indirect, and consensus methods to choose their candidates for an election or into party offices, and provides for Election Offences Commission. This is a comprehensive electoral law that should inspire hope that elections in Nigeria would henceforth become credible and respectable.
The new Electoral Act 2022 will indeed help in the fast track of election petitions, but more particularly, it is a plus on the work of INEC. It will help in easing the process of collection and collation of results and having to transport them from the polling unit to the ward level and then to the collection to the level of collection at the local government. So for me, it will go a long way to adding and easing the work of the INEC.
However, every election cycle in Nigeria has produced predictable challenges. The election officials perpetually arrive late to the polling centers, making the simple casting of ballot an arduous task for the citizen, because the process takes the whole day or disenfranchises some citizens. Electronic equipment used for elections also perpetually malfunction, forcing election officials to again disenfranchise voters or fall back on a highly discredited voter register. Furthermore, voters' names are perpetually mixed up, with a number of voters not finding their names at all in the polling booths where they registered, or there are more names in a polling booth and far fewer names in others.
When it reached my turn to go and vote, I was looking at their system there. It shows my voter's card, shows everything, shows my face. But he sent it and it went through. Only for him to go to the second snap and he say the system reject my, and this is where I voted 2019. And he say he rejected my card. After he showed everything inside the system.
Nigerians have not really asked questions. INEC, why do we have to have delay materials? So all those questions, what are the factors contributing to that effect? Can those factors, can it be solved as a result of amendment? And let me tell you, I have checked all the amendments, the new territorial amendment. No section or any part of talks about provide solution to delay in the development of territorial material.
The disturbing side of these challenges is not that they do not occur in other environments. The challenge is that the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has on each occasion promised Nigerians to rectify the weaknesses, and yet they occur in perpetuity.
The issue of delay in material, the issue of material, I can say is something that is as old as Adam within the electoral circle. To be candid, there is no two way about it. It's about administrative failure on the part of INEC. The constitution has given INEC the larger arts, and as you have said, the weapon to administer and to conduct election. It's the administrative failure. They know the terrain of every state, every region, every local government differ, so they should not be using the same uniform approach to distribute election material.
There are a lot of bottlenecks that I feel they still need to put in place. And so like this issue of the machine we're talking about, that issue of voters registration, so everything, you see, every year, every election, all some of these things needs to be reviewed. You understand? Like the voters registration now, so that there will not be double voting. Names will not appear in different polling booths, same name appear in different polling booths. We had that in the last election. So I think what they should do is try to put their house in order.
So, as INEC, civil society organizations, and progressive-minded Nigerians ask for a better legal framework, which the new Electoral Act has now provided, INEC must now prove that the challenge has not been with it, that the process of elections in Nigeria has remained a cause for recrimination. It must show that it has the capacity to deliver, the will to progress Nigeria's democracy, and the level of integrity to shun political violence or even induced errors would tend to make Nigeria's election a laughingstock. This is the irreducible minimum to show that INEC as an election manager is not the challenge to election integrity in Nigeria, and that effort towards producing the new Electoral Act has not been wasted. Well, by last Thursday, UMAHI, the governor of Ebonyi State, had obtained a court order from the Ebonyi State High Court stopping the implementation of an order by Abuja High Court sacking him and his deputy. The governor had opened his mouth rather too wide, boasting that nobody could stop him from being the governor of Ebonyi State. Yet he ran to another court and he condemned the Abuja High Court order as being purchased. Well, if one order can be bought, another can also be bought. Anyway, I began a conversation, an argument, whether the foliage of a tree can claim to be luxuriant and green in the absence of its trunk and roots. And so whether a candidate can hold on to an election victory after undermining those platforms that produced him as a candidate in the first instance for him to win a victory in an election. Can victory sprout out of no candidacy? And can candidacy come from no political party, at least as it is in our constitution today? Is the Supreme Court quite right to call political parties mere vehicles? And can a destination be arrived at without a vehicle?
It has been of serious concern to a enlightened mind and also to the legal mind of the behavior and attitude of some citizens of this country, and in particular, the politician. One thing I've discovered about them is that, yes, they are very conscious of the position of the law. In other words, they know the law, but then they look for a way to deviate from the law using all kinds of manipulations. And thank God for the judiciary and the wisdom of some of our legal minds that are on the bench, that have come up boldly to ensure that the law is complied with. The law, being a very sacrosanct things in our endeavor, is fully complied with. It takes boldness to really be on the bench and tell the politician that this is the position of the law and this is how things should be done. Coming to our own perspective of what happened yesterday in the court, whereby Justice Ekwo, which I seriously commend him for his boldness, his attitudeness, to have come up in the wisdom of the judiciary and the law to now say, look, you cannot do this. Having been voted by under a political party into a position, and after some time you now somersault and say no, you are no longer in that party and you are now defecting to another political party. In the case of Governor UMAHI, he won the election under the platform of PDP. And after some times, for no apparent reason, he said he's no longer interested or comfortable in that party and now defected to APC. Yes, there are certain laws, there are certain circumstances under which you can defect. But in his own case, those circumstances, those factors are there on the ground that made him to defect to another political party. Because today, we know the position of the law as to who contests an election in this country. The law says there is a political party and not a candidate. And that position has already been sealed at the Supreme Court. Looking at the case that took place in Kogi State some years back, that is the case that Faleke was involved in Kogi State. And the Supreme Court categorically said that it's a political party that contests an election. The vote being casted is for a political party, not an individual. So if you are a member of PDP and then election is being conducted and then you win an election under that political party, is it morally justified for you, if there are no apparent reason as allowed by the Constitution? In the case of governor, there's no provision under our Constitution whereby he can defect. But we are looking at it from the fact that an individual does not contest election. Rather, it is a political party. And if a political party contests an election and then he wins and the political party wins that election, is it morally justifiable for you to carry the mandate of that political party to another party, which you were never a member of it at the time you contested that election? So as we are discussing this since yesterday, in fact, it has been a situation of worriness to so many of us, because not only the governor of Ebonyi State, that is the governor of mine, what of the one of Zamfara State? The same problem. At the time he won his election, in fact, the Supreme Court said there was no APC. So how do you now go back to APC after the court has declared you as the winner of the election under the platform of PDP? So it is It is totally wrong, against the law, against morality, against anything you can think about it. Except that our Nigerian politicians, they have a lot to still to learn. You see, the court that gave that verdict yesterday, that pronouncement, Justice Ekwo, which I still commend him for his boldness, is a trial court. That is first instance court. You still have the right to go on appeal if you are not satisfied. After the court of appeal, if you are still not satisfied, you go to the Supreme Court. So, to all intent and purposes, the statement he made yesterday castigating the judge and the judiciary, although he has withdrawn that statement, but then it's a word that is already altered out. Yes, it will sanitize the political system. You see, one thing about that I know about the society, the fact that a wrong is being committed does not make it to be right. And the fact that there is a right and somewhere along the line some people are abusing that privilege does not mean that one should now take it that is the normal thing. Because before now there are cases, like I said, in Zamfara State, it happened in the National Assembly some years back, it happened. But we have to look at it from the merit and then the angle of what the law is saying. Because there's no facts of the case that are similar. And you cannot justify this particular one because others have not taken steps legally to cure it. Because that is the impression some people are having, which is also wrong. That, why should our own be like this when it has happened in other? It all depends on the way those who are aggrieved decide to take the issue. It happened in Zamfara State, but then nobody actually took it up the way it has been taken in the case of Governor UMAHI.
Well, and that takes us into our conversation for this Sunday, the Ebonyi State defection crisis. And my guest is the Ebonyi State chairman of the People's Democratic Party, PDP. Okorie, you're welcome to the conversation.
Thank you.
Let's begin in this way. When this news broke last week, there was news in circulation also that an Abakaliki High Court had given a judgment contrary to the one given in Abuja. Was there a suit by the PDP in respect of this same matter in Abakaliki, and therefore were you shopping for judgment?
Well, you have put it very rightly. It would have amounted to a gross abuse of court process if PDP had gone to a court, especially a court of coordinate jurisdiction, with the same matter as the one ruled upon by the Federal High Court in Abuja. What happened, in essence, a certain Senator Sonny Obuoji, who had been candidate of APC in 2019 governorship election,
yes,
who contested against David UMAHI in that election, then of the PDP, had gone to court, an Ebonyi State High Court sitting in Abakaliki, to request the court to pronounce him governor, being that Dave UMAHI, by the operation of the law, had vacated that office, and he, being the first runner-up in that election, ought to be sworn in as the governor. The court, in that judgment, ruled that he had no grounds, that number one, that the court had no jurisdiction. However, even in the merit that is a claim that lacked merit, for whatever reason. So he awarded a cost against Sonny Ogwuanji. Now, it's important for the public to discountenance the deliberate disinformation that was pushed into the public space, that PDP went to court and lost, and was fined 500,000 by a court sitting in Abakaliki. That is not correct. The correct position is that it was an APC person, seeking to validate the seat of an APC governor, who now went to court, pretending to be seeking for some sort of relief, it was all just arranged for.
Okay, let us not talk about an arrangement. In other words, why the senator went to court was that David UMAHI, having vacated, having defected, and lost the mandate of the people on the platform of the PDP. Therefore, he was the right person now to be declared the governor, being the runner-up. Okay. Now, the Abuja case, the PDP went to court.
Yes.
In the Abuja case. I'm not going to ask you because you're not a lawyer, but can you educate me on some of the major reasons why PDP went to court in Abuja?
Well, the major reason is not far-fetched. In our considered opinion, we thought that by the operation of the law, His Excellency Governor Dave UMAHI had effectively vacated office when in 2020 he defected from PDP to APC. And that is because there are a plethora of authorities, where it has been shown that electoral votes are cast
and won by
a political party, not an individual, not the candidate. So the votes belong to the political party. There are authorities to that effect, not one, not two, not three. That was the case when His Excellency Governor Mejia was sitting as governor in Rivers State, and then that was upturned by in favor of Rotimi Amechi by a ruling by no other than no less a court than the Supreme Court of this country, and so on. You could count a number of authorities to that effect. So we thought that relying on those authorities, that David UMAHI ought not to be governor after he had defected to APC, being that the mandate which he enjoyed as governor actually belonged to the party and not to David UMAHI.
Now, as the Abuja court has pronounced that he should leave that office, what happens to the legislators who also vacated the office and followed him and defected? Did PDP also seek a pronouncement?
Of course, there's a pronouncement by the same court, by the same judge, in a different matter instituted by PDP against the 16 honorable members of the Ebonyi State House of Assembly, to the same effect that by the operation of the law that they had vacated their office when they defected. Of course, they exercised their right of association, and defected to a party of their choice. We didn't have quarrel with that. We just thought that they ought not to have gone away with the mandate, with the votes, electoral votes that rightly belonged to PDP. Yeah.
He said yesterday, in fact on Wednesday, that he has a right to appeal and that he will take up that opportunity to appeal. Is the PDP ready to meet him at the appeal court?
That is, as you can see, the clutches of straw by a drowning man. All right? Now, if he meant all of the verbosity he engaged in, calling everybody around, calling them names and all of that, if he were not rattled, by the pronouncement of the court, why does he seek appeal? He said nobody could remove him from the seat, not Justice Ekwo, not anybody.
You know, but then surprisingly, as early as 7 o'clock this morning, he already ran to the Court of Appeal to seek protection. And it's his right so to do. PDP is committed to justice and the rule of law. As far as we are concerned, we know that if the right things are done, His Excellency Governor UMAHI ought not to be governor today. As a matter of fact, he left that office in 2020 when he left the People's Democratic Party. And therefore, we are very well prepared to pursue justice as far as the Supreme Court, which is the highest court of the land, if need be. But I believe that APC is, may not be a very credible party, but then it is people by human beings who should or ought to be rational. They ought to know that it's a lost battle they are fighting and should take the path of honor, and give up, because the judgment is clear and the basis for that judgment is also clear. Maybe I should go further to say I read the 8 grounds of appeal this morning, and it was all ridiculous to me, because none of those 8 grounds of appeal address the basic principle of law on which the judgment was delivered. The grounds of appeal ramble around all kinds of things, leaving out the substance of the judgment, which is to the effect that the electoral votes that brought Nwezo UMAHI to power belonged to PDP and not to David UMAHI and Eric Kelechi Igwe. All right, so to that extent, you could already see that the appeal is dead on arrival. There's no two ways about it, without meaning to be
prejudge the outcome
of the appeal. I know the matter is prejudiced already, and we will not force a fait accompli on their lordships, the justices of the appeal court. But it is in the public domain. There are grounds of appeal, and a rational human being would readily see that they carefully left out the substance of the judgment, and it is unfortunate as far as I'm concerned.
Let me. Yes. INEC has a role to play in this matter, because the Abuja High Court directed INEC to accept replacements. What does PDP in Ebonyi State expect now from INEC?
Yeah, because PDP is a law-abiding organization, practically the only national party that exists in Nigeria as of today, it will be unlikely in any event that the party will toe the path of brigandage, as does APC most of the times. We are prepared to walk the fine lines of the law, which is to say, INEC ought to, within the limits of the law itself, obey the judgment of court. That is to say, first, INEC must be in receipt of the judgment duly served on it, consider it with all its legal implications, and side by side the notice of appeal so filed. Now, as far as I know, as at now, I'm not aware that there is a stay of execution yet, and therefore, on receipt of that judgment signed by the judge, INEC ought to immediately issue certificates of return to nominees of PDP for the office of governor, executive governor, and deputy governor, respectively. So that is what INEC ought to be doing in the moment, barring any notice of stay of execution being filed and granted. Because as far as I'm concerned, His Lordship, the presiding judge that delivered the judgment, will be the one to determine in his wisdom and opinion whether the judgment, the enforcement of the judgment ought to be stayed in any case. And that hasn't been done. And to that extent, INEC is obligated to comply with the spirit and letters of that judgment, and that is where I stand.
Okay, look, I have a little worry. I keep calling it worry. Here, a governor elected on the platform of a party and his deputy defect and work against the very party that elected them. Now again, some legislators elected on the platform of the same party also jump ship. Where is the authority of political party in the whole of this? And let me tell you why I'm asking you the question. In the Second Republic, Adisa Akiloye will sit down as the chairman of the National Party of Nigeria. Alhaji Shehu Shagari, the president of the Federal Republic, will sit down as any other member of the party. And the party structure and authority determine what the party does and what its candidates do. How is it that a governor moves a candidate of the party and then he drags along legislators elected on the platform of the party, and the entire party machinery and authority look on? Where is the authority of political parties in Nigeria?
Thank you. It's a very important question that you have asked that borders on the ability of the jurisprudence in a particular jurisdiction to correct mischiefs, as well. Having said that, there has been a gradual erosion, or if you like, emasculation of the powers of a political party, and that is because the constitution that we have today makes the executive arm of government a super arm, if you like. They almost have superpowers, all right? And because they have those kind of powers, especially the power of the purse, so that they have like the proverbial knife and yam, both rest in the hands of the governor or in the hands of the president, in either case. So everyone else goes cap in hand to them for their sustenance. So does the political party. The political party now depends on stipends that governors and presidents, could channel, to them. Now, which is a clear program of emasculation and erosion of the powers of the political party. However, I believe that this democracy is still in nascent stages, fledgling as it were. I believe that we will develop over time and get to where we were in the First Republic and the Second Republic, where the political party wielded the power that rightly belonged to it, but for today, one of the ills or mischiefs that will be corrected by this judgment, which I hope will be sustained, is that no more will rascality be condoned in the political process, where someone will just enter into a very immoral agreement with a third party to say, okay, don't worry, when I win, I will come over. Just give me the ticket. When I win, I win on the platform of party A, and then I'm coming over to meet you on party B. Just create the window for me to win, which is what played out in some of these elections, including that of His Excellency David UMAHI. We could tell from the day one his romance with APC. All right, you could tell that there had been that understanding in 2019 that, oh, when I win, I will come over to APC, and he followed it to the letter. You know, so, but going forward, and I hope this very, very well-researched judgment of his Lordship, Justice Eko, will be sustained across board, so that some of these things can be curtailed. A governor can no longer go into negotiation with some sort of arrangement that, okay, when I win, I come over to your party. The legislators can no longer just wake up one morning and abandon the platform that brought them to the legislature, and then go to a different platform just at will. Since 1999, you see there have been just all manner of crisscrossing, you know, and this particular jurisprudence has never been thoroughly subjected to any form of test. This is the first time this thing is subjected to a legal test and a judicial pronouncement. So I hope that these things are corrected.
David UMAHI, your governor, was in PDP with people of like interest, supposedly, isn't it? Yeah. So when did it turn to be people of dislike interest? I heard President Muhammadu Buhari congratulating him for having the courage to jump ship. Did he discover his interest, real interest, a little late?
Apparently so, you may argue. However, my take would be that he has always had a different interest from the rest of us in PDP, which he successfully concealed. You know, that is the interest that has taken a life of its own. You know, the moment he found opportunity to let those interests out. He really never belonged to PDP. That is what it means. Going by your argument, if he were of like interest with us, and PDP's interest is found in the direct principles of governance, you know, as stated in the Constitution, which is good governance. That is to say, that the security and welfare of the people will be the direct principles of state policy and all of those things. The interest of PDP derives directly from that provision of the Constitution. And the moment your personal interest runs counter or conflicts with those ideals, then you begin to seek other platforms that will accommodate those parochial interests. That, I think, is what had happened
anyway, I do not want to draw a conclusion that what you intended to say was that PDP will want to govern in the interest of the people and blah, blah, blah. The man who jumped ship had jumped into a ship that does not want to govern that way. I didn't say so. However, Ebonyi State is quiet this morning because we think that the people will show understanding. The PDP is profiting from the current judgment. Can I ask you? They will say, when you are going to the bush to ease yourself, please take 2 sticks. One may fall, you can use the second one. If PDP loses at the appeal court, what will be its stake?
Well, the appeal court is not the final court in any case. However, even if the appeal goes as far as the Supreme Court and the court thinks that thinks otherwise than in agreement with the position of the PDP, then it stays like that at least until 2023, when the people will speak afresh. Okay? Thankfully, there's that opportunity for the people to speak afresh to confirm whether really it was the person that they were in love with in the first place, or it was the party that they were endeared to. And so in 2023, that verdict will be very copiously enunciated. So we are not perturbed at all. We are not losing sleep over what becomes of this matter eventually. However, we know, or we think that what is right is that, given the authorities that have been copiously cited variously, what justice means is that His Excellency Dave UMAHI quit being governor in 2020 when he left the PDP, the platform that accommodated him, and then went to some other place. So that's what I think is justice. But who am I? What can I say?
Okorie, thank you very much for coming to the show.
It is my pleasure. Thank you.
My name remains Wabos Njoku. Let's meet next Sunday. Good afternoon. And now to our thank you for this Sunday. Before the Nigerian Civil War, high life music was a national music brand that defined class, recruited the elite, and determined the color of entertainment across Nigeria. Now, if we're not a high lifer, we're not in it. Other music variants were either used to move the electorate during elections or used to add color to local events. And many of the people from the eastern part of the country held commanding control of high life idiom. But with many of these musicians leaving the Lagos turf, Ibadan, Jos, and other entertainment centers to return to the east, other musical genres took over the turf and gained prominence. Juju music, a Yoruba variant of call and answer music, which was essentially a praise music, emerged in the war period as a preferred genre. And one of the icons is Sunday Adeniyi, Sunny Ade. Sunny Ade has made Juju music not just a national brand, but an international offer that today attracts the high, the mighty, and the upper class. But making high life, well, making Juju music really a Nigerian music offer to the world, we say, King Sunny Ade, thank you.
Torí kò sí òmíràn tí a lè lọ, àjò lè dàbí ilẹ̀. Ẹ jẹ́ ká fọwọ́pọ̀ ká fìmọ̀ ṣọ̀kan, gbé kémi gbé. Ó yẹ kájọ ṣàṣàrò ló dára, ká finú inú ká fi kún lókun, kí Nàìjíríà kó lè tẹ̀síwájú. Ogun ọ̀tẹ̀ yìí ti tó, ká gbàgbé ìjà ẹlẹ́yàmẹ̀yà. Haúsá, Ìgbò pẹ̀lú Yorùbá ṣe láṣàjọjì ìjà òmìnira. Òmìnira ni a tún bára wọn jà. Èdìrẹ ogun èṣù yìí gbé kájọ gbé. Ó yẹ kájọ gbé. Kémi gbé. Ó yẹ kájọ gbé. Yéṣu. Nàìjíríà yìí ti gbogbo wa, ó máa gbọ́dọ̀ bàjẹ́. Torí kò sí òmíràn tí a lè lọ, àjò lè dàbí ilẹ̀. Ẹ jẹ́ ká fọwọ́pọ̀ ká fìmọ̀ ṣọ̀kan, ọmọ ìyá kan náà ṣàlàjẹ́ ìjà lóde torí lòwe. nípa ọ̀rọ̀ òṣèlú wa èyí ló kó bá gbogbo wa o ló kó bá ọrọ̀ ajé wa.
torí kò má lè ṣe kí ìjà máa wà ìjàmbá ti tó kábàárì àbúyá.
torí àwọn ọmọ wa tí ń bọ̀ lẹ́yìn kí la fẹ́ sọ pé àgbélé ayé ṣe gbé kájọ gbé bóyá kájọ gbé kémi gbé bóyá kájọ gbé kémi gbé nàìjíríà yìí ti gbogbo wa ní kó máa gbọ́dọ̀ bàjẹ́ nítorí kò sí òmíràn tí a lè lọ àjò lè dàbí ilé ẹ jẹ́ ká fọwọ́pọ̀ ká fìmọ̀ ṣọ̀kan gbé kémi gbé.
And that's our program for this week. Let's meet again next Sunday. My name remains Mwabuos Njoko. Good afternoon.